Shalom guys, welcome back to another episode here at Yashavia Ministries, Casa de Israel Yarah. I thank you again for being here. Thank you for the support, and I thank you for the support that you give to our channel. If you like the content that we are putting up, the videos, the information, please subscribe, like, put a comment. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, you can always put them in the comment section down below. So, before we get started with the Torah portion, let's do the Torah blessing. ברכו את אדוני חמורה, ברכו אדוני חמורה לעולם מהר, ברכו את אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר בהר בנו מכל העמים ונתן לנו את תורתו, ברכו את אדוני נותן התורה. Bless Adonai who is blessed, bless Adonai who is blessed now and forever. Blessed are you, Adonai, sovereign of the universe, who has chosen us from among the nations and has given us the Torah. Blessed are you, Adonai, giver of the Torah. Amen. With that being said, let's pick up where we left off in the book of Bamidbar. What is this week's Torah portion? Beha, Alotecha. Let's get started. So, Beha Alotecha, which starts speaking about the menorah, is in Numbers chapter 8. And so it's talking about the Levites, Aaron, saying when he is setting up the lamb, the menorah that is going to be in the holy place inside the tabernacle, he's giving him the steps of how he's going to do it. Now, like I said before, this book is going to minister to us how the people of Israel lived accordingly to what Elohim gave them in Mount Sinai. To this moment, they are in Mount Sinai. And so there's a lot of interesting topics that we can see in this Torah portion. They are a lot. We have the menorah, setting up the menorah, the consecration of the Levites for their service, the apprenticeship of the Levites, right? They had an age limit service. The Israelites kept the Passover in the wilderness. And then there was a second Passover based on people that were impure, that weren't able to celebrate Passover when Passover. They were able to celebrate it the second month because they were impure. There was also, they explains the pillar of fire at night and the cloud by day, and how God led his people through the wilderness. Talks about the silver trumpets and how they were going to move and how they were going to manage themselves in the camp as they heard the trumpets. It talks about the Israelites finally, after everything has been established as the commandments, the tabernacle, the service, how they will approach God, how they were going to represent Elohim, who was going to represent Elohim, who was going to represent the people. After everything was set up, they set out on their journey to the promised land. So let's get started with the reading. Chapter 8 of the book of Bamidbar starts saying the following: Ve'daber Adonai el Moshe lemor, daber el Haron va'amarta ela beha alotecha et hanerot el mul bene hamenorah ya'iru shi be'at Hanerot. Okay? And in English, starts off like this. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, speak to Aaron and say to him, when you mount the lamp, 7 lamps will give light in front of the lampstand. Aaron therefore did so, and he mounted his lamps in front of the lampstand, just as the Lord had commanded Moses. Now, this was the workmanship of the lampstand, hammered with a work of gold, and its base with flowers. It was hammered work according to the pattern which the Lord had shown Moses, so he made the lampstand. Here is explaining that Moses did everything according to what God commanded him in the mountain. Remember, everything that was revealed to Moses was revealed to him from the heavens. Okay, the blueprint or the pattern that God has established in his kingdom in the heavens, he gave it to Moses on earth so that we can manage it. Israel manage it on earth and basically bring heaven to earth through the tabernacle service and through the body of Israel in the camp. That's what they were called to be doing. And so we follow this with the following. It says, again, the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, take the Levites from among the sons of Israel and cleanse them. Thus you shall do to them for their cleansing, sprinkle purifying water on them, and let them use a razor over their whole body, and wash their clothes, and they will be clean. Then let them take a bowl with its grain offering, fine flour mixed with oil, and a second bowl you shall take for a sin offering. So you shall present the Levites before the tent of meeting. You shall also assemble the whole congregation of the sons of Israel and present the Levites before the Lord and the sons of Israel. You shall lay their hands on the Levites. Aaron then shall present the Levites before the Lord as a wave offering from the sons of Israel, that they may qualify to perform the service of the Lord. Now the Levites shall lay their hands on the heads of the bulls, then offer the ones for the sin offering and the others for the burnt offering to the Lord, and make atonement for the Levites. You shall have the Levites stand before Aaron and before his sons, so as to present them as a wave offering to the Lord. Thus shall you separate the Levites from among the sons of Israel, and the Levites shall be mine. Then after the Levites may go in to serve in the 10th meeting, but you shall cleanse them and present them as a wave offering. For they are wholly given to me from among the sons of Israel. I have taken them for myself instead of every first issued of the womb, the firstborn of all the sons of Israel. Okay, so here we have to understand that this is the moment in where officially the Levites are consecrated and they have been officially separated to serve God as priests on earth permanently, forever. They had been chosen by God to serve. We have to understand that this is something that biblically is established. We cannot go against what God has just said in his scripture. God says that the Levites are his and they represent him. And they represent the people. They separated from him. Interesting, it says here that they were shaved. And so I remember, and we should go back to when he was in Egypt and when he was about to be presented back to Pharaoh, they made him cleanse himself. They made him shave himself and do a process of purification so that he can be in the presence of Pharaoh in that moment so he can reveal the dream. Here the Levites are called to do the same thing, or Aaron is called to do the same thing for the Levites so that they can be of service to the people. And it says here, and I'm reading from this book right here, reference Sunday Van, very good book. It says, Egyptian priests shave their bodies every 3 days as means of purification. The purification ritual sequence of shaving, bathing, and washing clothes was also practiced among Mesopotamian cultures. For instance, the high priest at Emad was shaved in preparation for his installation. The cleansing process ensured ritual purification so that a level of holiness could be maintained for those in service for the Lord. A slightly higher level of holiness was maintained for the priests who received new clothes when they were consecrated for service, right? Recent studies suggest that shaving was one way to designate a temporary change in status. Okay, so here you might think, well, Alex, why is God using something that Egyptians and other cultures were using at the moment? Aren't we supposed to be different? Yes, you are very right in your question, understanding that yes, we're called to be different. But understand that Israel is coming out of a place in a world in which God has to talk to them in a way that they can understand. So remember, all of the structures that are established in the tabernacle and the commands that they are given, they are called to be a contrast. God did not come up with these commands out of the blue just because he felt like it. God is trying to instruct the people, okay, you guys were taught this. Understand that I teach you that this is the right way to do it. And he gives them a structure in which they can understand, they can see, they can have a reference and say, okay, they do it like this, but we do it like this. They might have similarities, but they are totally different in the categories and the levels of holiness that are established. Okay, now here, it also talks about Israel having to put their hands in designating the Levites. Remember, the people had to designate the Levites because the Levites were called to represent them. So they were responsible for the service of the Levites, and if they did a good job, okay, they had to do a good job to represent the people. Okay, so now we have established that the Levites are going to represent the people. They're going to represent the tribes of Israel. They're going to minister on behalf of the people. Now that we have established that, then we're going to listen to how they were going to move. Let's keep reading. Now, verse 15 says the following. Now, on the day of the tabernacle was erected, the cloud covered the tabernacle, the 10th meeting of testimony. And in the evening, it was like an appearance of fire over the tabernacle until morning. So it was continuously the cloud would cover it by day and the appearance of fire by night. Whenever the cloud was lifted from over the tent, afterward, the sons of Israel will then set out. And in the place where the cloud settled down, the sons of Israel will camp. And at the command of the Lord, the sons of Israel will set out. And at the command of the Lord, they will camp. And as long as the cloud settled over the tabernacle, they remained camped. Even when the cloud lingered over the tabernacle for many days, the sons of Israel would keep the Lord's charge and not set out. If sometimes the cloud remained a few days over the tabernacle, according to the command of the Lord, they remained camped. Then according to the command of the Lord, they set out. If sometimes the cloud remained from evening until morning, when the cloud was lifted in the morning, they would move out. Or if it remained in the daytime, at night, whenever the cloud was lifted, they will set set out. Whether it was two days or 2 months or a year, the cloud lingered over the tabernacle, staying above it. The sons of Israel remained camped and did not set out. But when it was lifted, they set out. At the command of the Lord, they camped, and at the command of the Lord, they set out. They kept the Lord's charge according to the command of the Lord through Moses. So, there's a big emphasis here on Israel understanding this pattern. And we can get super spiritual in this, but remember, the way I like to teach you is pay attention to the simple thing. There is a pattern saying that as the cloud moved, they moved. As the cloud stayed, they stayed. And the cloud represented Elohim. So as God's coverage guided them, they moved. And as God's coverage rested, they rested. It is believed that they rested and they will rest on Shabbat, or they will rest on the 7th day from the tribe. As Elohim rested, Levites will minister on behalf of the people. Now, it is interesting that the most important aspect of this is they were following God. Okay, remember this entity that they are getting to know and understand, they were being led only by the command of the Creator. They didn't move on their own. They didn't invent steps to the land. They took every step that God guided them. Let's keep reading. This is where it gets interesting. So it says here, the Lord spoke further to Moses, saying, make for yourself trumpets of silver, of hammer work. You shall make them. You shall use them for a summoning of the congregation, for having camps set out. When both are blown, all the congregation shall gather themselves to you, to the doorway of the tent of meeting. Yet only one is blown. Then the leaders of the heads of the division of Israel shall assemble before you. Okay, so when one of the blasts are blown, that means that the leaders are assembling and they are going to have a meeting. Simple. But when you blow an alarm, the camps that are pitched on the east shall set out, meaning that it was a continuous blow of the shofar. So I don't even know if that was good. But when they heard that, it meant that the east side was going to start going. When you blow an alarm the second time, the camps are the south side shall set out. Preventing the assembly, however, you shall blow without sounding an alarm. The priestly sons of Aaron, moreover, shall blow the trumpets, and this shall be for you a perpetual statute throughout your generations. When you go to war in your land against adversaries who attacks you, then you shall sound an alarm with trumpets. Then you may remember before the Lord your Elohim and be safe from your enemies. Also, in the days of your gladness and your appointed feasts, and on the first days of the month, you shall blow the trumpets over the burnt offerings and over the sacrifices of your peace offerings, and they shall be as a reminder of you before your Elohim. I am your God. It says here, now, the second year of the second month, the 20th month, the cloud was lifted from the tabernacle of testimony, and the sons of Israel set out on their journey to the wilderness. Then the cloud settled down on the wilderness of Paran. So they moved out her first time according to the command of Moses, the standard of the camp of the sons of Judah according to their army. They set out first, right? And now it starts establishing the leaders of each camp, how they were going to proceed in the movement of the camp. But here, something that I want to emphasize, because this is what led the people in the wilderness. Okay, look at what it says here. Verse 33 says, thus they set out from the mount of the Lord 3 days' journey. The ark of the covenant of the Lord journeyed in front of them, and the ark represents the throne, and so the cloud and the ark were in front of them, and they were leading the pact. Elohim was protecting them. And in other ancient Near Eastern, especially Egypt, the king was being carried and the people were protecting the Egyptian king or pharaoh. But here, Elohim is the one leading the pact, and Elohim is protecting Israel. Interesting, right? And so whenever they saw the ark, they saw no image. But when the Egyptians were carried through battle, they will see the Egyptian king or pharaoh. And as Israel would defeat them, they will see that there was nobody on the throne sitting, because there wasn't an image to represent them. So it says here, the cloud of the Lord was over them by day, and when they set out the camp, then it came about when the ark set out, Moses said, rise up, O Lord, and let your enemies be scattered. Let those who hate you flee before you. And when it came to rest, he said, return, O Lord, to the mayor, the thousands of Israel. All right. And so here we're starting to see how the people of Israel are moving. Remember, they established the Levites as their representation of the tabernacle. Now, the camp had a system in which we talked about last week that were led by the leaders of the tribes. And so as the trumpets were blown, there was a specific pattern that they were supposed to follow. There was a structure, there was an order. God is trying to let the people understand that He is a God of order, just like other nations have their commandments and their way of doing things. Elohim wants his kingdom to be ministered the way he wants it to be ministered, and he wants them to obey him. In this Torah portion, as we close out, there's something very interesting that happens, and the people demonstrate something that is going to dictate the rest of this story. Okay, now the people became like those who complained at adversity in hearing of the Lord, and when the Lord heard it, his anger was kindled, and the fire of the Lord burned among them and consumed some of the outskirts of the camp. The people therefore cried out to Moses, and Moses prayed to the Lord, and the fire died out. So the name of the places was called Tebera, because the fire of the Lord burned among them. The rabble who were among them had greedy desires, and also the sons of Israel wept again and said, who will give us meat to eat? We remember the fish which we used to eat free in Egypt, cucumbers, melons, leeks, and onions, the garlic. But now our appetite is gone. There's nothing at all to look at except this manna. Now the manna was like a corn seed, and its appearance like a bendulum. The people will go out and gather it and grind it between two milestones, or beat it in the mortar and boil it in the pot and make cakes with it. And it states cakes and baked oil. When the dew fell on the camp at night, the manna will fall with it. Now Moses heard the people weeping through their families, each man at the doorway of this tent. And the anger of the Lord was kindled greatly, and Moses was displeased. So Moses said to the Lord, why have you been so hard on your servant, and why have I not found favor in your sight, that you have laid the burden of all these people on me? Was it I who convinced all these people? Was it I who brought them forth? That you shall say to me, carry them in your bosom. A nurse carries a nursing infant to the land which you swore to your fathers. Where am I to go to get meat to give to all these people? For they weep before me, saying, give us meat that we may eat. I alone am not able to carry all these people, because it is too burdensome for me. So if you are going to deal thus with me, please kill me at once, if I have found favor in your sight, and do not let me see my wrenches. Now here is where Moses, if we remember in Exodus, is commanded to basically establish leaders to help. Okay, now from everything that we have seen, Elohim providing for the people, saving them, giving them instruction, giving them a name, we see that the people are not satisfied. The people are not happy with what they have. They have been protected by this invisible God that they can't see. Their desires and their personal thoughts are depriving them from understanding that there's a higher purpose and a higher message between what God is trying to do, which is fulfilling a generational blessing that he promised to their fathers. And they don't understand that they are a fulfillment of that blessing, because they're so stuck in the moment and stuck in their ways and their perspective of how things are going in the moment, that they're not understanding that there is a bigger image and a bigger purpose ahead with them in that moment in time, as them becoming a nation. So as we listen to what's going on here, Moses is frustrated with the people. Elohim is going to be responding to the people. He's going to be instructing the people. The people are not understanding that they have a higher purpose that is bigger than them. There's more important things than what they believe necessary, right? They need to appreciate that they were in a state of slavery, and that this Creator has delivered them and has fulfilled his promises to his fathers. But they are forgetting that by the minor things of hunger, which he has provided. He has provided them with an identity, but we haven't understood that our identity is bigger than ourselves. Okay, here we're going to understand how people of Israel lost focus in the simplest ways. They have forgot that, and I don't think they forgot, I think they got distracted by frustration, which is something normal. But we have to understand that the Creator is the one and the sole provider of everything. They decided that they would like to go back to Egypt. They decided that there they had better things than in the desert, in freedom. Hebrews chapter 3 says the following: therefore, holy brethren, partakers of the heavenly calling, consider Jesus, the apostle of the high priest of our confession. He was faithful to him who appointed him, as Moses also was in all his house. For he has been counted worthy of more glory than Moses, but by just so much as the builder of the house has more honor than the house. For every house is built by someone, but the builder of all things is the Creator God. Now Moses was faithful in all his houses as a servant for a testimony of those things which were to be spoken later. But Messiah was faithful as a son over his house, whose house we are, if we hold fast our confidence and the boast of our hope firm unto the end. Therefore, Just as the Holy Spirit says, today, if you hear his voice, do not harden your hearts as when they provoked me, as in the day of trial in the wilderness, where your fathers tried me by testing me, and I saw my works for 40 years. Therefore I was angry with this generation and said, they always go astray in their heart, and they did not know my ways. As I swore in my wrath, they shall not enter in my rest. So we want to enter into the rest. We want to understand the Bible. We have to understand the Creator's way. Israel was given the ways of the Lord, but they decided to do their own thing. They decided to complain and test him. So my question is, are we going to test him? How long will we test him? Is a question that we have to think about. Understand, guys, when I tell you obedience is key, I'm not lying. So read up, and I hope you guys have a great week. Shavua tov and Shabbat Shalom. Thank you.